Luca, welcome to Real Vision.
Thanks for having me.
Luca, you have an interesting background. You worked at Google, at PayPal, some of Silicon Valley's biggest companies. Tell us a little bit about your background and your journey into the cryptocurrency space.
Yeah, happy to, of course. So my story with crypto goes back to 2012, 2013, when I was an intern at a big payment company, and I was reading something about payments in general, and I came across this Bitcoin for the very first time. The price back then was $200-300, something like that, and it was already featured on some newspaper because it wasn't really clear what that was. People found this idea of being decentralized pretty interesting. Didn't really know what decentralized meant at the time, and as a very personal experiment, I went on an exchange in Europe, bought a couple of Bitcoin just to see what I could do with them. And after that, I felt this great thing of being in control of my money. I couldn't really explain what that meant, but I felt that not having a third party involved in my possession of my money and still being able to consume this money in a digital fashion would open up some interesting things in the future. So again, I wasn't really clear about what I was doing. I didn't really know anything about the technology, but I started playing with it and I found it fun. I then went to my VPs there and said, listen, like I'm an intern here. I suspect that I can have some time to play around with some technology. What do you want me to just take a look at this and maybe tell the other 30%, there's 30 people in the team what this is about? And they said like, no, we look at that a little bit, like just don't, because it's not going to last long. I say, okay, fine. You guys have like 30 years of experience in this space, and who am I to like go against you, right? And that was probably by my biggest mistake, because it went up from 300 to 2,000, and I sold it immediately because, like, again, like who am I to make this crazy return, even in a super short period of time? And
Right.
then it like collapsed again, and I said, yeah, maybe they were right. And so I saw this like going up again, and I said like, oh, maybe there's something more. So anyway, I developed this interesting like resistance to drops, to sudden drops in Bitcoin, and that made me understand that there was much more than this. Flash forward to a few years later, I have my MBA at UC Berkeley, and UC Berkeley was a great community for crypto early on. So I had really the chance to spend way more time on the technical side. Clearly started from the white paper of Ethereum, and then I started realizing this sort of idea that I remember a problem that I experienced when I was working in the companies that you mentioned before, and I said maybe this can be solved with blockchain. And I was
Right.
thinking about the specific problem of me being an employee at these companies on day number zero point 0.1, having this need of accessing every possible data table inside these companies to do my job, or at least like to make sure I was not missing out. And then someone else located somewhere else in the world having to approve these weird requests from an unknown employee who would ask, I need access to this table because I need to perform like analysis for my manager, right? Which is the most broad possible explanation you can provide. And so I said, okay, what if I use blockchain to create a sort of black box where all the computation and all the data lives, but then the blockchain helps me verify or help someone else verify that the data is used in the way it's supposed to be used. And I had this like very vague idea, but I had a very clear problem in mind, right? I said, what if two companies want to share information, but they don't want to transfer the data set over the other company? What if there is money attached to this flow of data at the same time? And I Googled privacy preserving computation experts. And maybe because I was at Berkeley, but like Google served me the result of Don Song, Professor Don Song, a very famous professor I use at Berkeley. We got in touch, and it turned out that she was working on the exact same thing. but she approached this from a way more technical point of view than I did. And so the working together going forward seemed to be like a natural match. And I've been employee number one at Oasis Labs right after the very first software engineering team. I've been there for 2.5 years. I've been seeing all the change, and Oasis Labs became over time the first contributor to the Oasis network, which is this underlying blockchain that powers this idea of privacy and privacy preserving smart contracts, while not sacrificing the ability of using the data and while providing extra layer of scalability to the current stage of blockchain.
Yeah. It's so interesting hearing you talk about your initial impression and the sort of feeling of empowerment and the sense of self-sovereignty, autonomy, of taking control of your own financial destiny, of your own assets. And then, you're working at a big company. I don't know if you were at American Express at that point, but I know you'd been involved in all of these large companies, and you have these, these folks with suits and 30 years experience saying, no, that's not the way it works. And it's so interesting that, your own instincts were correct. Something that people your age, people younger, feel such a connection to this technology for all the reasons you just mentioned.
It's absolutely true, right? It felt extremely positively weird, I'd say, to have control of that finances, to have control of that unit of value. Again, 2013, you didn't really know what to do with that. I wasn't a person buying pizzas with Bitcoin, but still it felt like, it really felt like a primitive
Right.
that many other applications, use cases, or protocols could actually start playing with to create something way bigger. But the main properties that I was really fascinated by were maybe a couple. The first one is I can put my money wherever I want, so I don't have to keep my money in my PayPal account. I don't have to keep my money in my bank account. If today I want to open an account here or a wallet here, I can do it. If I want to move into another wallet, I can do it, and it's all in my control. I don't have to ask anyone else.
Right.
The second one was that I can verify whatever I do. I can go online and see all my transactions. I can see whether it's verified. Again, I didn't really process all these details or how important these details were, but it felt really unique compared to the traditional experience that I got from banks or other institutions.
Right. And it's also interesting as someone who worked at PayPal to have that experience of thinking, I don't want this to be necessarily on their network. I'd prefer to have it on a network that I have autonomy on.
That's right. That's right. It's interesting because in you really feel while you're using it that you're relying on a central entity versus not relying on a central entity. And so what you consider being the default and what you consider being very normal up to that point is not normal anymore. And it says why do I need to rely on someone else when I can do this myself? Clearly in the current system, there's plenty of answers why PayPal and all these entities should exist, right? It's very obvious why they are there and why they're very important for the system. But I think what they're realizing themselves is that once the shift to digital happen, the marginal importance of having a third party in the middle, it's something that is very tied to regulation. And so the question is, what if the regulation changes? Right. And what if the security models, the insurance models, the protection models are actually shifted directly to the user and no longer to the central part?
Hey, if you like this clip, be sure to check out the full interview and more only on realvision.com/crypto. It's 100% free. Sign up now.